a big welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us again. We're really happy to have you all here. A little bit about the way that the Q&A session will work before we kind of jump in here. But by the way, I should introduce myself. Sorry about that. My name is Deja. I am one of the admissions counselors here at Wagner, and I'm very excited to be kind of hosting this Q&A with President Martin. And so for the format of the day, we're going to have you guys send in your questions. On this format of WebEx, you'll see a little chat area. If you just put your questions into the section that says Q&A, we'll be able to see your questions and try our best to get to as many of those questions as we can during the session. And we'll kind of be monitoring that throughout so that we can get your questions answered. So yeah, that's going to be sort of how things are going to work out today. And I would love to now introduce President Martin to all of you. So a little bit of background about President Martin. He is the 19th president of Wagner College, so welcome. And he is just completing his first year with us. He has a very distinguished career of teaching and service and leadership at colleges and universities, both large and small. Recently had served as provost and the dean of faculty at Franklin and Marshall College in Pennsylvania. Then that was from 2014 to 2019 before joining us at Wagner. He earned his bachelor's degree at Birmingham Southern, a liberal arts college in Alabama. He holds a master's degree in theological studies from Harvard University and a PhD in the history of religions from Duke University. He's also a noted expert on Native American religions and is the author and editor of several books in his field. So we are very excited to be having this Q&A with our 19th president. Welcome, Dr. Joel Martin. And why don't we sort of just kick it off? How are you doing during this time? And maybe you could tell us how you found Wagner and what brought you here to Staten Island.
Oh, thank you, Deja, and thank you for all of you who are here today joining us virtually, and it's really good to have you here. I'm glad you're interested in Wagner. It's an enchanting place. It's sort of off the beaten path, and my wife Jan and I were in Lancaster, and we know higher ed pretty well. I'd also served in Massachusetts at the University of Massachusetts and in California, University of California. So I thought I knew higher ed pretty well, but I didn't know where Wagner was, to be honest with you, and we discovered it. And we came here, and it's just such a magical place. It's off the beaten path. Some of you may have driven up the East Coast, and you may have crossed Staten Island. And actually, I can see the Atlantic Ocean from where I'm sitting right here. And a lot of people don't realize that, but our campus is right next to the Atlantic Ocean. It's on a beautiful estate. It's a 103-acre campus in a suburban setting. It's a beautiful setting. So the setting itself is spectacular. It's beautiful. It's peaceful. And when we came to campus, we fell in love with the people. The people is one of the warmest communities we've ever found. And we've been in education. That both of us are educators. And that's the thing about Wagner, is that it's sort of a bit off the beaten path, a really special, caring community. And that's what our faculty and our staff, it's an intimate, friendly place. And it feels like home as soon as you get there. But you have to find it. And it's a little bit hidden. And so I admire all of you who have found it. It needs to be more visible. Sometimes I have this metaphor I use for those of you who know old films. It's like Brigadoon, this village that just appears magically once a year. Or Shangri-La, you have to know how to get over the Himalayas to find it. Or Lake Wobegon, it's off the beaten path. Or Wakanda, it's got a little bit of that as well. So it's this very interesting little place. It's a gem of a campus. My job's to make it better known, and we're going to do that because our students are great. They go out and do great things. They make a big difference. I'll stop there, but I'm eager to answer any other questions you have. But we fell in love with the place. It's never let us down. We're really thrilled to be there. The truth of it is it's one of the most caring communities you'll ever find. I don't know if that's because of the presence of the nursing program for 80 years, because of the diversity of the student body, again, the setting is there's something about the setting that's really magical and peaceful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I definitely agree with that. I'm also an alumni of the college myself. And that's definitely one of the things that made me fall in love with Wagner so much, was just that community aspect. So jumping into some more of our questions here, something that I know has been really on the forefront of a lot of people's minds, especially in everything that's going on in the world today. How are you and how are we as an institution preparing for the fall semester?
Well, every day I get up and obviously, we are really committed to our students' safety. And so that served us well at the very beginning of this entire pandemic. We were early to vigilance. I convened a task force in January to prepare as if, something bad could happen. We were proactive in that regard. And as a result, we were ahead of this and we were able to get everyone home safely. So we have that muscle built into us. We always care about student safety, regardless of what the danger is, whatever it is. And now we have a novel virus. We are rapidly becoming epidemiologists. We have a wonderful microbiology program. We have a nursing program. We have a program. We have distinguished alums. And we're planning, and we've been planning now for a month for the fall. And every day I grow a little more optimistic about the prospects of having us return to the fall. We're working toward that goal diligently, and I'm very confident we'll get there. There's progress being made on the testing front. We're keeping in touch with the rest of higher ed, with the state. We happen to be in a state that has very stringent standards, and I'm really glad about that. We're following those standards. We're in consultation with the CDC, with the state. We have a very strong consortium here working with the governor directly to prepare our campus. The work that's being done is behind the scenes. We'll be starting to share more of that as we move forward. We have a board meeting this week. We'll be making some significant investments in the physical plant. It will be different in the fall everywhere in the United States. There's no doubt about it. Anybody who says that's not the case, I wouldn't go there. It's going to be different. We're going to have the social distancing practice. We're going to have a lot of education over the summer for our students. We'll have testing before we get back to campus. But I feel more and more confident every day that we have a robust set of resources and commitments that we're protocols and practices that we're introducing and planning for. And again, I think the scale of the campus serves us well. We have dorm capacity. We have 103 acres. We have space, which is really useful. And we have, again, the most caring people on campus. Safety is number one. We will not compromise on safety. And I take that very seriously.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much. I know that's definitely something that has, of course, come up quite a bit, and especially as students are thinking about where they're going to be in starting college in the fall. So we do appreciate you giving that answer. A little also caveat into the fall as well. Do you plan on teaching any classes yourself during your time at Wagner, or maybe even upcoming year?
Well, I have taught a class this term, and it's been really great. And it's a class that asks students to reflect on their Wagner education. We have a very distinctive curriculum it's a national leading. I made it sound like Wagner's not as well known as it should be. The beauty of Wagner is not as well as known as it should be. But the curriculum is well known, and it's regarded as a national leading curriculum because it helps students move straight through to success into their careers. Through experiential learning, through internships, through practical education, through interdisciplinary education, et cetera. And so I taught a course this term that asked students to reflect on their Wagner experience and their education at Wagner. And we're also surveying our students to help them appreciate. A lot of times you don't realize what you have when you're in the midst of it, but this is a national leading curriculum. Our faculty present at national conferences. It's in books. It's highly regarded as a curriculum. It's a path-breaking. The shorthand phrase for it is the practical liberal arts, meaning that you're going to be a well-rounded, critical thinking person who has the skills, but also has experience in working in businesses and theater, whatever you want to work in before you graduate. Literally, I was on visiting with some students in the spring, and they were talking about how they have 3, 4, 8 internships, before they graduate. So it's a powerful curriculum. Yes, I don't know about teaching the fall. I'm going to be focused on, helping the community thrive in challenging circumstances.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm just going to take a quick pause here to remind everyone who has come in during these questions that if you have questions of your own, to definitely send them into the Q&A section of our chat. But we do appreciate you being here, and we'll definitely make sure to get these questions answered for you. So the next question of the day for you, President Martin, what is there to do in the area, and what is your favorite part about living on Staten Island?
Well, again, I have to accept the peaceful part of it. We have a dog. There's a beautiful park that's 2 blocks away from the campus. It's called Silver Lake Park. It was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, this very person who designed Central Park. Staten Island has more parks than any other, borough in New York City. It's just pleasant to walk around in and visit. The food is very strong here. That's been traditional. We have great diversity of people here and great diversity of food. So I think the setting is again, I keep going back to that. But the thing I enjoy the most as president is getting to know the students. And both my wife and I have been fully involved in getting to know the students and seeing their performances. It's a creative spirit here that's just so powerful and so wholesome in a kind of almost a throwback way. It's a progressive community. It's very diverse, but it's also got this wholesome quality to it where everybody seems to have each other's back and they celebrate each other's success. So if you go see someone play football, you'll see the theater people there. If you go to the theater, you have football people there. I mean, and they cross over. I mean, we've got a star basketball player who's in the theater. And so it's just a great community, and we love to go to see the students and participate in their events, whether on stage or in sporting events. There are these great traditions at Wagner that we just love so much, and so I can't describe how much joy that's brought to me. In my previous job, I was the provost. I worked primarily with the faculty. As president, I get to work with the students a lot, and I love the faculty, but I also love getting to know the students, as does my wife. She's out there. If you look on social media, you see she's always doing stuff, getting those students. We've had students to the house a lot. We've had a lot of students to the house, different groups to the house. We've baked cookies with them. We've had game night with them. And that's the scale of Wagner that's so charming. So we're going to launch you to success in whatever you choose to do. We have people who've been stars on Broadway. We've got somebody playing in the Super Bowl. We've got people at the top of microbiology. There's no doubt about that. Okay. We also have this really intimate, friendly place where the faculty know you, and even the president and his wife know you, it's pretty special. That's another thing we like about Wagner. The scale of it is perfect. It's not too small that it's this claustrophobic place. We have strong grad programs, professional programs. We have a lot of access to a lot of interesting facilities and amenities. But we also have that scale. So it's just about the sweet spot. I call it the Goldilocks campus.
Absolutely, I love that. And I'll also chime into that a little bit too, just from an admissions standpoint. I also love to see that campus is so involved, and that's where you do really get to see that community aspect of Wagner thrive is through our student organizations. We do have over 60 different student-led organizations, which is pretty cool. So I think that if students are ever bored between events going on campus or going out and exploring in New York City, which is also right there too, that's definitely a choice because there's always something going on campus for sure.
I've never heard anybody say they're bored. I mean,
exactly.
I've never heard anybody say they were bored. I that you mentioned that.
Absolutely. And speaking of student activities and things that are going on, the next question that we have for you, how will incoming freshmen be acclimated to campus in the fall? And before you give your answer to that, I'll also mention just a little bit about orientation. So when all of our first year students do join us in that fall semester, and hopefully we are all back to normal and set to go by then, fingers crossed, there will be a weekend long orientation. So all of our first year students, whether or not you are choosing to dorm or if you're going to be a commuter student, the entire first year class, the class of 2024, is going to spend a weekend together, getting acclimated to campus and getting to know what Wagner is really all about. And that's one of the major goals of orientation. There will be some aspects of it that are kind of like information sessions for you, but there will also be a lot of fun social aspects. And during my time at Wagner, I was very fortunate enough to actually work on orientation in a lot of different aspects. And so I hold that event very near and dear to my heart just because it really is such a special time on campus. And I think that, that first day of orientation might be one of my favorite days just because you do get welcome in all of the new students, and you have a bunch of the returning students excited to be there too. So yeah, it's a really exciting time, but maybe you can speak a little bit more about, I know you've already mentioned that we do have these kind of contingency plans, but what you think acclimation might look like this fall.
Well, yeah, thanks for answering that. Yeah, orientation and move-in is wonderful, and you described that well. So, and you're the expert on that, and having been through it and also helped to organize it. So, I appreciate that. We're going to be proactive in reaching out to all our students this summer, more proactively than ever. And there's even talk of probably offering a course. We should follow up with some of our colleagues to see if we wouldn't have folks take a course even before they get here if they would like to avail themselves of that option. That might be something we should pursue. But we're going to be reaching out in terms of communicating the new social norms, which we have. And we hope to recruit some of our more recent grads to help participate in building that culture during this time. So we'll have a stable group of mentors, if you will, that we're going to recruit. And that's sort of breaking news. I haven't really shared this broadly yet, but we're going to have some, upper class peer mentors who will serve as folks to help incoming students understand what Wagner culture is, how to participate, what the hidden curriculum is, so-called, the sort of decoding Wagner in another way. So this will complement all the work that you've been doing and that Res Life does and all our faculty do. We're going to add to, rather than, we're not going to be satisfied with what we've done in the past. We're going to add another layer of support. And so that's going to be really important. That I didn't mean to break that news, but I just tend what's going on, and that's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
exciting. And I think that's really wonderful, especially for our incoming students and starting to get acclimated. And while we're on this vein, how would you say that any suggestions for a student that might be coming from California or the West Coast, since you have lived on both coasts?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, well, although we didn't have a winter this year, you might want to invest in a coat. This year we had hardly any snow whatsoever. So it depends on where you're coming from in California. I lived in Southern California where there was no the worst weather was in February when it rained, and that was when you had to be careful driving. But other than that, you didn't need a real big heavy coat. I think reach out, ask your questions, don't be shy. I mean, this is the beauty of Wagner is that we're here for you, we're available. There should not be any mystery about anything. You should reach out to Deja, me, anybody at any time and ask your questions. Don't be shy. I mean, it is truly a small, intimate community, and people do care about you. And if I can't answer the question, I will refer you to the right person. If Deja can't answer the question, we'll get the answer to you. I mean, this is what we do. And it's been remarkable through this time as all of higher ed was disrupted this spring. It's just been admirable to see how everybody's handled this. The faculty, the staff, the students, the parents, everybody's been together in handling this very unprecedented situation. And that gives me confidence. If we can handle this at our most vulnerable moment when we knew the least about what was going on, that makes me feel much more confident about the future because we learn something every single day. We know we can handle this and we will handle it together.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. With everything going on, it is great to have that optimism in our leadership as well. So we do appreciate that. Um, Kind of also thinking of the future and looking ahead a little bit, what specific plans do you have to renovate campus?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I really want to emphasize that, I, see our moment now as consonant and consistent with what we've always been doing. Our mission hasn't changed and our aspiration hasn't changed at all either. We are committed to the development of the whole person. This has been what Wagner's been about from the time it was put here on this island 101 years ago. And I can quote previous presidents who described this. And so as part of this future for Wagner, we're not focused only on the problem that we're facing as a nation. We're thinking aspiration about how we can make this campus healthy for the long term in a holistic way. So we're not just focused on a particular virus, although believe me, we're focused on that virus, yes. We're focused on the entire development of the student. And part of that means how we change the dorm a little bit. We're going to have touch-free doors. We're going to do a lot of things like that that are part of the pack comes with this challenge today that everybody will be doing, and I hope in a successful way. We'll be changing how we handle dining. We've got robust plans there. We have an excellent partner in that. We've learned a lot, but we don't want to stop with that. My aspiration is for us to be the healthiest, most wholesome campus in the country. And so toward that end, we're going to be making some serious investments in our physical plant. We'll be doubling down on how we support the whole student and thinking about that collectively. That's a goal. And so I don't really want to just get down in the weeds on the micro details of what we're going to do. I can do that all day long. Believe me, we're studying everything. We always want to think about where we want to be longer term and how we're going to support the student for the rest of their life. And so once you come to Wagner, you become part of this family, and you're always part of this family. When you leave, you're going to be wanting to come back. This is what I hear. The alums always want to come back, and they want to support our emerging students. We have really great networks around the world, certainly in New York as well. And they're going to be there for our students, and they're going to be there more than ever for our students. So that's just something. I hope I get that message across, through this medium right now, is that it's not about just solving this problem. It's about solving the bigger problems of our society. And solving the bigger problems of what it means to be a wholly educated person. That's always been what we've been about. And we've gotten through wars and recessions and depressions, and we'll get through this. And we'll be very proud of the work we're doing here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad that you also mentioned the idea of, being a well-rounded and kind of, very whole, complete student when you're at Wagner, and then, even person as you go off beyond Wagner. And we did have a question, speaking of that kind of well-rounded aspect, about our learning communities. So just to give a quick background for those of you who maybe are still learning about what a learning community is, the idea is that all of our first year students, when you come into Wagner, you're going to enter into your first year learning community. That community is going to be your cohort of classmates that you're actually going to go through orientation with, and you'll spend about 2 out of your 4 first semester classes with them as well. Those 2 classes are going to be kind of combined to make up this learning community. And the premise is that you'll have 2 different classes from 2 different disciplines that are then married together by your professors and kind of co-taught between the 2 of them. So that creates a really unique learning experience as well. Just to give you some examples, because our learning communities, there's 26 different first year learning communities that you'll choose your top 6. Our academic office will do their best to put you into one of your top 6 choices. But we have all different topics. So for example, there is a learning community called Minds, Machines, and Human Beings that pairs medical ethics with human anatomy and physiology. Infinite versus finite, finite math with microbiology, cultural insights into the making of the modern world, which is going to pair African American history with educating for democracy. So you're going to really see a wide, we kind of talk about this a lot in admissions, so I'm sure you've heard myself or one of your admissions counselors mention the breadth and depth of education that Wagner offers. So as far as the learning communities go, you really have a wide variety of ways to get involved and sort of see the world through a different lens and maybe a little bit in a different way than you're used to in your kind of more typical high school classes. President Martin, would you like to add anything about the learning community process or?
Yes, I would. From my perspective, having worked at other schools, again, I've worked at small schools, small, purely liberal arts schools with no professional programs. I've worked at big, major flagship universities. And then I'm now at Wagner, which is this, it's a liberal arts school with some really strong professional programs, and it has the right scale. What I have seen in the learning communities especially is that it creates the capacity in the faculty to work across boundaries in a way that actually fits the way the real world works. The real world doesn't come in these neat little simple packages of like, I can solve all problems by studying sociology or even math, or that's not how it works. The real world that you're going to go out and succeed in as a Wagner grad comes to you and with a lot of uncertainty and confusion, and it's a mess. And so you have to sort through that. You're better able to do that if you're able to mix the disciplines that you've learned in a concrete way and solve a problem. And so this is already done at the first day you get to Wagner. It's not like, okay, later you're going to figure out how to put this together to solve a problem. You're already doing it on day one with faculty who've already done it, and they're not trapped in their, they're not trapped. And it creates a different tenor among the faculty, which I keep telling them. Again, sometimes you don't realize what you have when you're just in the middle of it, the fish in the water. I love the faculty. They're great. They don't realize how great they are because they've learned this skill now for 20 years of working together. And so they look at the world in a very rich way because they really respect their colleagues and they know their colleagues and they know how to think about a problem, not just from their angle, which is essential. Don't get me wrong. I have a PhD in a discipline. I look at things a certain way too, but they know how to work together. I think this is the beauty of the Wagner model. I mean, and so again, it's this aspect that's subtle. You got to be here to understand it. A lot of students don't necessarily understand it immediately, but once they get to the end and then they go out into the world, they're able to show, they're able to think, and so are our faculty. And so it makes us a very powerful little engine, I think, for innovation and for solving problems. I really think we have a special role to play because we have this muscle that we built over 20 years. This is not a new thing. Other schools are trying to learn how to do this. And again, I've been at other schools. You'd have to create enormous incentives and try to break down silos and create institutes and spend a ton of money to get faculty to talk to each other. They do it every day here. They do it every day, every day.
Absolutely.
It's a real great, it's hard to describe that via the internet, but it's a wonderful, wonderful model of education and it's working really well.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And it is really refreshing to be able to know that, your professors are talking across disciplines because you never know who might be able to get you a connect to an internship down the line. You might come in as a microbiology major, but be really interested also in using that degree to do something in human rights. And maybe one of our, sociology or political professors has a connection there that you never would have found out if you didn't kind of have that cross connection there. So that does make it very special. And also, speaking of, this is a perfect transition as well, the uniqueness of Wagner, and you've touched on this a bit, but how would you describe the Wagner community?
Yeah, I mean, we love it so much, and and people who get to I have met people who have left Wagner, and when I was announced to be president about a year ago or a year and 6 months ago, and I was talking to these people who had left Wagner, and it's like they never got over it. It's like they left for other reasons to go to other places, and they just want to come back. I mean, they just love it so much. So it's this. I know it sounds all romantic and everything, but there's something quirky about it. That's just, I don't know, is it the water? They claim the water makes the bagels and the pizza better. Is it the water is so good here that it makes people sweeter? I don't know. But, so that, everybody cares about our students first and foremost. Public safety officers are known to take time to counsel somebody who's having an issue, and they're not professional counselors, but they're friends. They're friends. Faculty have students over to the house for dinner. We support each other. It's got a great caring quality to it. And I just keep going back to, these metaphors of this village, that secret village that's hidden on a hill. Grimes Hill is the second highest point on the east coast of the United States, from what I understand, below Maine and all the way down to Florida. And so we have this grand vista, and you walk in and you see it, and it's just uplifting. I can see the Atlantic Ocean right over here. I'll turn the camera if you don't believe me. So you have this setting of, I think that's it. So something about the community, haven't figured it out yet, Deja. I'm still new. It hasn't let me down. It's been very inspiring to see. We've got a lot of alums who work for Wagner. We've got a lot of staff who send their kids to Wagner. We've got multi-generational families, many, many generations. It's just a marvelous thing to see. It's a special community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I already mentioned this, but it was one of the prime reasons why I was so attracted to Wagner. And it is very true what you're saying. It's very difficult to describe. It's something that you do just experience, and once you do realize that there's not really anything else like it. And I'm glad that you also brought up public safety. One of the questions that we have is how safe is campus? And something else that I'll also mention just about public safety from the admissions standpoint, because we do discuss this a bit as well. Coming from a perspective of just working on campus, and also I mentioned that I'm an alum, so having been a student on campus and lived on campus, I would just like to say a huge shout out to public safety, because they do such an amazing job of making our campus feel safe and feel like home. And if you do have any kind of issues, public safety and officer is always right there to help out. So they do a really excellent job, I know. But I'll let you take this one away and chat about campus safety.
Yes, it's a very safe campus. It's a we have a guardhouse when you enter, and you have to go by that. So everybody has to announce who they are, why they're there. And they're also, by the way, I did learn a statistic that most of them are retired NYPD. A lot of them are, and so sometimes the median level of service among our staff is higher than that of NYPD, because they've served a long time and now they're working for us. I think that's correct. I'll have to check my statistics, but it's pretty good. And they're real nice. They go to the events, they go to the sporting events. They don't just show up to work. They show up, as part of the community. We've had everybody over for lunch at the house. We brought all the staff over, and so it's a well integrated community. There's not a divide. There's not a divide, I should say. When I say public safety or NYPD, people think, well, there's no divide. They're present, they're known, they support the students, So I don't know what else to say about that, but it's a very safe campus. It's an extremely safe campus. I feel completely safe every minute of every day there. In Grimes Hill, I mean, it's a wonderful, safe place. It is. I wish people would drive a little better, but that's true. That was true in California. That was true in Lancaster. So other than that, but
Yeah,
nobody's driving through campus. It's a very pleasant, walking campus. It's a canonical, iconic campus featured in movies because it just looks like a classic New England campus.
yeah.
Which it is, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, about public safety and really just everyone being part of that Wagner community. Speaking from my experience as a student as well, I'm pretty sure that I know, if not all of them, definitely the majority of our public safety officers by name, and they know students by name as well. So there really is that sense that they want to get to know us as, members of the Wagner community, and they really are there to keep us safe as much as they are there to be a part of the community.
That's true in the dining hall as well, which always gets an A, and the chef, Michael, knows the students. If you're sick, make you some tea with honey in it, and you don't want this food, they'll make you some. I mean, don't hold me to that. He won't make everybody a custom meal, but I just say personally, he has done that. He does that. You're known. It's a face-to-face personal community across the board. So it's good.
Absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. And then we did have a couple of questions about the FAFSA. So some questions about next steps after filling out their FAFSA. I'll just say that you can find more information about that on the website under our financial aid page, but we will follow up this Q&A with an email letting everybody know all of the appropriate offices to reach out to if you do have those specific questions about financial aid, or really about anything that is a little bit more specific, just because we want to make sure that the Q&A is for everyone. And speaking of which, President Martin, can you speak a little bit more about social distancing plans for the fall?
Yes. So, again, New York has stringent standards. And I think we've, without being political, I think we've had admirable leadership from the state. And, they have a resource dashboard which indicates when we can open up. They have different zones in the state that can open up. And so that's available to the public. And we're not there yet currently, right now, today. We will be there in the future. I mean, we're making great progress. If you look at the numbers, which is, by the way, it's a terrible thing. And I know people who've been affected elsewhere, and I'm sorry for all the losses that people are suffering. It's a tough time for our country. Within that, New York has passed the worst part of this. And, we've got good leadership, we've got good protocols, and we're going to be compliant, not just compliant, more than compliant with the guidelines that we're receiving from the state. Again, the caring community we are, the presence of strong health sciences, just who we are, we're not going to compromise on safety. So regarding social distancing, that there was the 6-foot rule that we will observe, and we've already redesigned our dining facility. We have a very large dining hall, and so we will not have any problem accommodating within that. We actually practiced a lot of the protocols on the front part of this whole pandemic, where we had to learn how to do single serve, how to control the food. We actually have a little bit of practice because of the experience. But we're consulting with CDC, with the health board, with the state. We are devising a comprehensive plan, a very comprehensive plan, down to how people enter buildings, how they sit in the space, how they work with others, how they access materials, how we rotate in and out of classes, how we protect our staff, our students, and our faculty. It is an extremely complicated and detailed plan that we're working on all the time, and we will be submitting that to the state at the appropriate moment. There are intermediaries helping us with that. There are guidelines that are being issued that are helping from professional bodies. We're consulting with those. So I can assure you that we are looking at every detail in that regard, and we are investing in the physical plant. Not just hand washing stations and wipes and supplies and masks, but all sorts of things that will help. Again, we're not going to stop with that. We're not just going to be concerned about only that. We're also going to be thinking about the psychological impact and helping students tap their resilience and learn how to manage the fears, and our staff as well. This is something the whole nation is going to be facing. How we show up with resiliency and prudence, in a very difficult situation. We want to help that. That's part of what the learning that's going to have to occur. We're all going to have to learn that. And so we're going to be very proactive in thinking about how we support our folks universally in learning what we're going to all have to learn. And I don't think there's going to be a safer, more, committed campus than ours. That's our goal. We're going to do everything we can to do that, but we're not going to yield to fear. I mean, in the end, we're really not just going to capitulate and hide. We're not going to take foolish risks. We're going to keep everyone as safe as possible, but we're going to help our students thrive through this. And on the back end of this, they're going to be the strongest, best students that we've ever graduated, And so I'm really confident about that. I wouldn't say if I didn't believe it. We were not open and we're not safe, but I feel like everything's looking good. We have quite a methodology we're working on. We're watching everything that's occurring in the state as we develop our plans. And at some point, these two will come together, and I'm confident they're going to come together in time. The state is making serious progress. Just look at the numbers. You can see some parts of upstate are opening. We're also part of a regional group. We're not doing things randomly. We're trusting data. We're relying on data. We're looking at the science, and we're going to have the capacity to respond appropriately to the data. We'll be doing a lot of testing, no doubt about that. That's the key word that's been in a lot of our conversations. We're investigating a lot of different options. I'm personally confident the testing regimes are going to get better. I do follow it very closely, and I think they'll be more scalable, more available, more private, safer. I'm pretty confident on the testing front, actually, based on what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing from other institutions and from other intermediaries. So it will be different, but it'll be better than where we are right now. Where we are right now is not sustainable, and we need to be able to live our lives and connect with others and grow and develop as human beings. And that's what we're trying to do. We're going to do that safely, as best we can.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much. We do appreciate that. And it is always nice to have that reassurance, especially coming from our higher administration, from our president. So that's always really wonderful to hear. We do have a couple more questions for you, kind of shifting gears a little bit. We have a question coming in from a family from Hawaii. It says, aloha, our family lives in a small rural community on the island of Hawaii, about 10,000 people population. To Wagner, which is located in a major metropolis.
Well, again, I would take solace in pointing out that it is technically part of New York City, yes, but actually, Staten Island is its own thing. It's a distinct thing. It's its own island, and it really has that pride of being different and separate because it is surrounded by water and it's right next to the Atlantic Ocean. So we are next to the ocean, and I would emphasize that for someone from Hawaii. And we've got kids from all over, and we've had folks from New Zealand, and they love it here. I mean, and so I think we have some kids from Hawaii too, I believe, as well. So I reach out to us. Don't be shy. Ask your question. I grew up in a small town myself, and it may feel intimidating to think I'm going to go and live in New York City, but it's the scale of the campus itself that I would point to. Look at the visuals. It's 103 acres. It's up on top of a hill. It's in a residential neighborhood, a really nice residential neighborhood. It used to be the Vanderbilt estate. It used to be the Kennard estate, so that the shipping magnate could look and see his ships coming in from the Atlantic Ocean. And before that, it was a resort. And that should say something to you. It was a resort for the gentry to come out and hear and have the ocean breezes, blow on them. So, and it's a very unusual place. You would never believe you're in New York City. And, that's the truth. You just wouldn't believe you're in New York City when you see our campus and its location and its surround. So again, I would urge you to reach out and we will try to connect with you, and don't feel like you have to wait till you get here. We can connect you with somebody who's from a small town and they can tell you what it's like more personally. It's a long time since I moved away from my little town in Alabama.
Absolutely. And I'll say as well, just in case, I know I may have mentioned this to some of my students, and you being from Hawaii, that means that I am your admissions counselor, but I'd be happy to connect you with any of our current student ambassadors as well, because I know we have a ton of student ambassadors that love connecting with our newly admitted students and our prospective students. So we're always happy to chat more about that too. And speaking a little bit from my experience as an alum, I also came to Wagner from a very small town. And as President Martin said, having that campus really does help, because as much as Staten Island is a part of New York City, it's also the forgotten borough, and that does speak to its residential nature and the fact that you do have this really nice, beautiful, quiet to come home to at the end of the day after going into Manhattan or Brooklyn and exploring all the hustle and bustle of the city. And on a similar vein to that as well, just kind of speaking about Wagner and coming from different places, another question. My daughter is excited to join the Wagner family. She'll be traveling from Texas. Would you recommend or not freshman students to have access to a car? We like to drive in Texas.
I'd be honest and I'd say no, probably. I mean, probably not. I mean, I don't think it's really needed here so much. I probably just doesn't, I think there are other options, and the life on campus is going to be so fulfilling. And yeah, my instinct's to say no at this point. It's not like it's not easy to rent a car or get an Uber or, we have a van service, typically that we run to help facilitate travel for internships or placements. So I would sort of just be honest and say probably not. Oh, having said that, we have a really nice big parking lot. And we have ample parking and it's free. And if you want to bring your car, more power to you. That'd be great. You take people for rides and go explore. And so, yeah, my instinct's to say no, but we do have the parking available.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just mention that too. I definitely agree. It's not totally necessary, but if you do want to bring your car, any student is eligible. You don't need to be like an upperclassman. I know some colleges have rules about that. If you are a first year student and you want to bring your car to campus, you are allowed to do so. You'll just have to get a parking pass from public safety, and that can be done as soon as you come to campus. And if you're coming from Texas on move-in day, when you're kind of getting settled, you'll get that parking pass if you do decide to keep your car with you on Staten Island. We are starting to approach the end of our session, so this is going to be our last question. But before we kind of wrap up and say our goodbyes, I do want to let everyone know that will be a recording of this Q&A session for future reference, or if you want to go back and get an answer to one of your questions again. So you'll be able to find this. Admissions will send this out via email, and it will also be up on our website within a few days or so once we get that recording set up. So that will be good to go. And if anyone had those specific questions, I know we had some questions about deadlines regarding theater, athletics, PA, all of those more specific questions, as I mentioned before, we will follow up with you via email. And I really, really encourage everybody, if you do have a specific question, reach out to admissions, reach out to your admissions counselor, or really anybody at the college. We're always happy to help you get to the right place and get any answers that you're looking for. So without further ado, this is going to be our last question. President Martin, what are your plans for Wagner's future?
Well, I've already said one, which is I want us to be known as one of the healthiest campuses in the country. I want to leverage our location, which is so magical, and I really mean everything I say. So that we have a special role to play in higher ed. We have a special curriculum. I'd like to build off of that. I've asked the faculty to think about, having built this muscle for interdisciplinary collaboration, what new programs, what problems can we solve because we have this muscle. I think we'll probably be advancing our professional programs. Already before, in this first year, we've already launched a series of conversations about bolstering and strengthening our health sciences. This was something we've been working on for a year already. The nursing program goes back 80 years, and now more than ever, but we were already working on it. The PA program. So there might be other programs that we'll develop that an undergrad coming in now might be able to get a hold of later. We're going to revitalize our business program. We've had great success in business historically, and we have great access, and I think the future is very bright. So those are some of the things we're working on to raise the profile of the institution as a whole. I don't want to keep it as a secret, okay? It's a secret. We want to keep the special charm that we have. We don't want to lose the special community we have, but it deserves to be recognized more, and that's on me and everybody else who knows Wagner to help it become what it can be. But it's a gem. It's going to play a really vital role in the future of New York and of our nation, really. I think it's got a great role to play. It's the right scale, the combination of the undergrad and the professional programs, the location. So all of the above. I think it's poised for really great things ahead. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that. To me, it's got a great trajectory, and we're going to keep working hard to make it strong. So do we have any more time? We're out of time here, or
Yeah, so we were, we are approaching that limit mark, so we wanted to make sure to wrap up and say thank you to everybody who was able to attend this session. And as I mentioned before, if there's anything that you would like to be revisited, definitely check out the recording of this video, which will be coming to you guys via email, and you can check it out on all of our social media, and it'll be posted on the website. So we'll make sure, to get you guys all set that way. And with that, we'll kind of close up. President Martin, is there anything else that you would like to add? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say, and I hope I have said it already, but I want to stress how thrilled we are that you are thinking of coming to Wagner, and your students thinking of coming to Wagner, and bringing their talent, their promise, their potential, and entrusting that with our campus. That really means a lot to us. We attract wonderful, talented people from around the world. And it'd be great to have those folks from Hawaii and Texas and every other place come and join this special community and work with us together, to keep the Wagner spirit strong. And I can't wait to meet you and get to know you and support your development. And we're here for you. And you'll find that to be the truth. So I really appreciate your interest in this college. It's a special place. And your coming here will make it even more special. And we will value your talents highly, and we'll help you develop them to the fullest of your ability.
Absolutely. President Martin, thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A session today. And of course, thank you to everybody who has tuned in today as well. And we hope to see everybody back on campus very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you all.